Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. In the corporate world, they call it a SWOT analysis. We're going to do one of those for your farming operation. You ready for a conversation with some real farmers about real issues? And the best part, you're invited. So pour yourself a drink, grab a snack, most importantly, pull up a chair. Welcome to the Granary. Hey guys. I've got Stephane Zelinko, Kevin Matthews, and Matt Miles here. And we're going to talk about that. By the way, thank you for being here. Stephane is with AgroLiquid, the sponsor of this episode of the Granary. Thank you very much for being a sponsor. And we also thank you for being here. You're an agronomist with AgroLiquid. You're also a farmer with your husband about 3 hours north of here in central Michigan. And you know what? You've got the corporate background. So you knew all about a SWOT analysis because you probably in some time in your career had to do one. My farm friends are like, wait a minute, what's this all about? What, a decade or so ago this became the thing?
Yeah, I think so. And I have to do one every year, even from the agronomic side. You know, we're not dealing with the numbers like sales, but we still have to do a SWOT analysis of what we're doing for agronomic support.
So you're supposed to look at your business and say, what are the strengths? What are our weaknesses? Where are our opportunities? And what is a threat to our business? So I'm just going to go ahead and start right with you. Kevin, what's a strength of Matthews Farms?
I believe it's the openness to surround myself by more successful people.
Then it helps you farm better because you're willing to take on their advice, their recommendations, and ups your game. We're going to go with strengths then with Miles Farms. What's a strength of Miles Farms?
Well, he absolutely took my answer. That's why I was hoping you were.
Usually I go to you first.
Yeah. I just knew you were, and I thought, well, I got this. This is going to be.
By the way, it's not bad to have the same strength.
Well,
it's not bad to have the same strength.
That's one of them.
That's how we met.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I wanted to learn more about soybeans, and you was great at it.
And
still
same with corn, with you. But, just to me, one of our strengths is being open-minded, adapt to change.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many people that's like, I'm not doing that. There's no way that'll work. I've been guilty of that myself with my son. Say, there's no way this will work.
Yeah.
And then find out later. Every time I say that, I'm wrong. But, just being open-minded and willing to try new things along with surrounding yourself with smart people.
I'm going to give you another accolade. I see it as a strength from the 3.5 years I've worked with you. You willingly admit that you sometimes are quick to say that won't work, which many people do, many farmers do, but you are open-minded enough, it's a strength, to try it and then admit you were wrong about the preconceived judgment, which is, I think, a strength to be able to admit you're wrong. What's a strength up there? What's the name of the farm up there? Zelinko Acres?
Zelinko Brothers.
Zelinko Brothers.
So I think our biggest strength is the attention to detail. So we share crop rent everything. So if we want those acres next year, then we have to have that attention to detail. So little things like mowing the roadsides, picking up the stones, making sure there's no weeds. And so that just secures, the next year contract, because you have to negotiate those contracts every year. So we own our post-run, but anything that we rent is on that share crop on a year-to-year basis.
And she's right on that. I mean, 95% of our ground is share rent, and you've got to go that extra mile because the coffee shop talk. If you're not mowing your turn rows and your farm don't look as good as your neighbor, then it may get rid.
You might not get the farm next year. And
a guy with cash rent, you give him the money that as long as you don't grow it up.
You got to keep them ditches mowed and keep your canal banks mowed, everything. And it's the landowners. Even the ones that's cash rent versus share rent, you mentioned the coffee shop. It just gives that sense of pride to them that, and them's the landowners you want that's got the pride in the land.
That's what I was going to say. I've never been in a share arrangement, but I certainly understand it. We cash rent my ground out, but there's still that thing, even share rent or whatever, of the mowing and taking care of things because it becomes a competitive thing, I want to make sure that the landowner's happy and all that. So you're good about tracking details, you said. You think you're really good at keeping an eye on things like that. That's a strength.
It is.
We're going to stay on you, Stephane. Weakness.
A weakness.
Most people are bad at this. Well, my weakness is I just work too hard. Yeah. My weakness is I'm just too pretty. My weakness, come on.
Oh, exactly.
He talks too much. Right? Yeah.
No, I think there's a lot of weaknesses. Probably the one that I would go to first is the willingness to change. So the farm just recently became 100% our responsibility when the second uncle in the operation passed away. So, it's always been the uncles were in charge. Now that we've lost both of them, it's 100% Ryan. And he's getting better, but the mindset was that's what they've always done. So that's what we're going to do. I'm not going to worry about changing anything because it's worked. We've been very successful. So I think a weakness is that there's not that willingness to change. We're working on it, but it still, I think, is drawing back a little bit.
And the benefit there is at least your unwillingness to change is not uncommon. Every one of these, we all know that's, first off, that's humans.
That's farmers.
And that's farmers. It's farmers in particular. It's humans in general. It's farmers in particular that, resist change. But at least what you're doing does work. Think about the people that are unwilling to change and what they're doing isn't working. Right. And that's a weakness with an exponential next to it. All right. What's your weakness? You got one?
Oh, man, yeah. I got a couple of them. But the one that really stands out the most for me is managing the employees. That has always been a weakness for me because I want my guys to, if they see, if they're walking by, and it always impresses me when I see employees that are walking around and they stop and pick up a piece of trash out of the farmyard. Yeah. They're not told to do that. And I like it when employees they go and do their thing. They know their job. And lots of times I don't even know they're there, but the work gets done and it gets done great. And that is cool. What really, the biggest weakness I had was learning that the one thing worse than losing a great employee is keeping the bad one.
All right. I was actually going to say, I hope Kevin says, because most people this way now, one of your weaknesses is the act of delegating or employee management. It is my worst thing. I'm self-employed 31 years. I did have an employee once, and I kept her employed for 2 months and just hid. And someone said, you're afraid to call and ask her what's going on with your own business? And I said, I'm afraid to talk to her. I said, this is really a headache. And they said, fire. I said, well, I don't want that headache. And they said, you have a headache right now. It's like, well, how much worse could the headache get of getting rid of the one that's costing you money? And I'm like, yeah, I'm a really crappy delegator. I'm a really crappy employee manager because I haven't really done it. I've been self-employed for a long time. So that is my glaring weakness, and I don't farm, but that'd be my glaring weakness. Can you get better at that?
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess the big thing for me is the one weakness I see in other farms, especially, working with XtremeAg, we get to work with a lot of growers across the United States and other areas. And what we see is those 70 and 80-year-olds are making decisions, and the 50-year-old son, 55-year-old son doesn't really know. He knows how to work hard. He knows how to farm hard, but he really doesn't know the business intimately. And I see that as a big hindrance on that. And one of the strengths that I have is identifying that weakness. And Matt's got this as well, in my opinion, is being able to step back and let that younger generation take control. I'm excited about seeing that younger generation come in. I'll give them all the rope they'll take. I try to leave enough slack in it. If they want to jump one day, they'll make a little extra. I see Matt do that with Lane. I see Chad do that with Jackson. And I see Temple do that with Little Temple, and then Kelly with his sons. And that's a big thing. And it's not easy for a farmer to let go. Stephanie just talked about what they've experienced. I mean, it's a very common thing in the ag world, but being able to identify that weakness in others, knowing that it could be a poison for your operation. Because face it, when those kids, they're just like we were. Yeah. When we was in our early 20s and 30s, we was full of drive and ideas. And the difference in Matt and I and a lot was we didn't have nobody to hold us back because we was on our own. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to be that father that holds anybody back. Now, I do want to be there to try to soften the fall when they make a mistake, because they're going to make mistakes. They need to make mistakes.
I was going to say, soften the fall, but still let them make the fall, because they learn. Have you learned from all your successes? Sure. Have you learned from your mistakes even more?
Probably so.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. You got a weakness?
What do you think it is?
I was going to write down, because I was going to write down for everybody. I wouldn't have known for sure because I've not been to Stephanie's, but I can write down what I think strengths and weaknesses are, but then I don't want to sound like I'm being judgmental. What's your weakness?
You know what he's wanting to say.
Festering over things that probably take up mental space because you're kind of a worrier is probably your weakness. But I'm a fine one to talk. I woke up at 4:47 this morning and then go back to sleep with nervous energy. So I'm not casting stones. I'm probably joining your boat.
Yeah, that's probably, I mean, that is one of my top weaknesses is getting in too big of a hurry.
Yeah.
You know, worrying so much, worrying 5 or 6 days ahead of things that might happen and not living day by day. You know, I mean, the Bible tells you to live the day, live by the day. And I'm always trying to plan out so far, not getting too big of a hurry. So I'll knee jerk something. And I've got to go back and fix that. And my wife will tell you one of my biggest weaknesses is worrying too much about what people think. You know, I'm always looking over my shoulder saying, well, what's this guy? You know, when you come from the other side of the fence and, you know, you've got that on you kind of that chip on your shoulder. And I'm always wondering, am I doing the right thing, or am I looking the right way, or am I, treating people fairly or whatever?
We also work in a small community. I mean, figuratively and literally, Deshay County's not big, and people know who you are, and so there's that thing about worrying what other people think of you because you're working in a crucible.
Well, and I'll say this all the time: she may have to get a 10 by 10 metal building, but when I die, I won't standing room only in my funeral. And she may, like I said, she may have to get a little small building.
Get small.
But if they're standing room only, then you've done your job as a person in life and left a legacy of being a good person. That's number one. Behind everything else that goes on a farm, when you leave this world, did you contribute to the world and make it better?
By the way, I'd be willing to have your funeral here and to help fill it.
Mike can fill this.
Well, and also, if I've got three kegs on tap, that helps attendance. I don't know if you ever noticed that.
That might be counterproductive, though.
I got a question for you. I don't know about the weakness. You said adjusting to change. Everybody that's watching this has that same challenge, right? Adjusting to change. What do you do to improve that? And also, you're kind of the outlaw. That's the thing, right? The in-laws and the outlaws. You married into this. You start going in there and saying, "Here's how you might drive a wedge in between that whole thing." How do you navigate them getting better at change and also being the outlaw?
Well, it's easy now because it's down to Ryan and I. So there is one aunt who grew up in the city.
Poor Ryan.
Poor Ryan.
No, I think we're really poor Ryan.
Essentially, that's what it is. It is. It's down to Ryan and I. There's one aunt who, like I said, grew up in Detroit. She's not from a farm. Like the first time she found out that we spent $300,000 on a combine, she about had a heart attack right there because she'd never seen $300,000 in her life. And so, I think adjusting to change is an issue for everybody, but the openness and the willingness to adjust. Like there are a lot of people that will keep farming the rest of their life. We have neighbors that are our age that they're going to continue to do what they've always done because it works. And so I think, being able to recognize it is different.
Guys, I don't farm, but you do. When she threw out their $300,000 combines, well, should we go up to Michigan and start buying our machinery? Because that sounds like a cheap machine.
Yeah, but remember 30 or 40 years ago.
Okay.
Like when they bought their first new one.
If there's $300,000 combines up there, I might get into farming in Michigan.
I said our first one, so we're talking years ago.
Yeah. And then farmers have trouble with that. If they have non-ag wives, and you go in there and you buy $1 million cotton picker, they're like, you just spent what?
$1 million.
And that thing runs 25 days a year.
And remember, and you're not being mean and it's not being in any way chauvinistic, but you bought you didn't want to buy me, I don't know, a better diamond for my engagement, but you spent $1 million on
and that's a lot of sacrifices we make farming is we put our personal things aside. We don't have the house at the beach or the lake house or the boat or the jet skis. We put that aside.
Time to use them anyway.
No, I mean, you're working, and quite frankly, people say, I get asked this a lot because we have such urban sprawl there where we're at is, what's hobbies do you have? Farming. What else do you do? I mean, what do you do for fun? Well, farming. I mean, literally we love it. And we do because, it's not uncommon to, if you work a 80-hour week, you feel like you had a vacation.
Well, and I think I'm in the industry, so that helps. Like, I understand what it takes to grow the crop and what it takes to, get that season done. Where, the other people in the family that don't work in ag, they don't see that side and they don't understand it. So I think Ryan has the advantage because I know. I grew up on a farm. I've seen it, So I think that's made that transition a little bit easier because I don't have those expectations that we're going to get, a cabin up north or a boat, because I know that's not reality working in the industry we do.
Well, and you going back to strengths, one that's probably as big a strength as I have is I married an ag wife who is super good on the farming side. And when you've got a partner that's all in with you all the time,
it's that's a strength. Yeah. I mean, you got to have that relationship. Yeah. Which, I mean, y'all work hand in hand, which Cindy and I try to stay out of the office when she's there so we don't butt heads much. But just having that family there is fun. I mean, we've got a grandson now, and he's in the office crawling around everywhere, and we're blessed to have a son-in-law and a daughter that is not a gerbophobia, so it doesn't matter if the passage dragging on the floor of the office, it's no big deal. Wipe it off. That youngin's good.
I'll tell you an interesting observation. Most farming operations are family operations, and I think we should point out is they're family operations, but I would no way call it a strength. There's a lot of farming operations that are family operations, and it's the furthest thing from a strength. It's a detriment. It's a headache. It's a fight. It's a feud. It's a disaster, ticking time bomb. I mean, let's face it. There's a lot of farming operations that if you're listening there with strengths, weakness, opportunities, and threats, they better put weakness and threat as our family relationship is so volatile, this thing is going to come crashing down.
The issue, what causes that is when they segregate out and say, I done this, or this is mine. Cindy and I's name are on, we signed a line on most stuff like Matt and Sherry Kay. But the fact is, it's going to be hard to catch me saying this is mine. It's always going to be ours. And when I say ours, I'm talking about the whole team, because it takes from the youngest employee that just started there to the most seasoned employee. Yeah. It takes all of us to make this thing work. And it's a lot of fun. But one thing that really hurts that I've seen is, you single each other out, but transparency. You got to have transparency. We've parts bills. It's unreal what it can cost sometimes. We have one of, Eddie comes in and he goes through all the invoices. He's the one that orders the parts. If I need something, I tell Eddie what I need. He orders it. We keep up with it. But it's unreal. We hit a drought this year and it was looking really bad. So we started, it was 100 plus degrees, which that's normal for Matt, but we would send the guys home about 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It was just 90-some% humidity. It was rough. And just everything looked bad. Didn't look like
it sounds like a pretty nice day.
Nice day in Arkansas. But the point was, we was at the end of the year, we brought the guys in and we said, okay, where we sent the guys home this summer and we cut back on what I would call the busy work. It needed to be done, but it didn't have to be done. But we cut $43,000 off of our labor bill just by throttling back. We pumped the brakes. We knew we was going to have a bad year. I mean, nothing was going to fix it. No amount of fertilizer, no nothing. We needed rain. We got the rain, but it was in hurricanes. We didn't need that much and the flooding. But the fact is being transparent, and the guys was like, wow, man. And that's how you build that teamwork. Yeah. And I think that is a lot of the problems when you talk about the families working together, is a lot of them don't realize the stress of the ones looking after the financial side. And it may be that some are ashamed that, I'm at this age and I owe this much money, or, I'm spending this much money and I don't have enough money to pay these employees. None of us pay our employees what we want to pay them. I don't believe none of us do. And this, we want to pay them more, but there's only so much money to go around, and you just got to share that.
You've been sitting there probably thinking all kinds of stuff. You're very thoughtful.
Well, I was going on. I'm planning ahead, opportunities and threats.
We'll go right.
I'm listening to Kevin, and I'm trying to think. Next is going to be this.
Let's go opportunities. Now, it's a business. And that's obviously in the boardroom. They talk about their SWOT analysis, opportunities, for acquisition, expansion, new products, whatever. It's not different for a farm. There's opportunities for your farming operation. You've capitalized on many of them already. You've already diversified. What's the next opportunity?
Well, I mean, the opportunity right now, sad to say, is there's probably as much land or more land in our area that
coming available.
And I mean, the opportunity is there if you want to increase I was talking to a young farmer the other day, and I think he said he was farming 1,500 acres, and he went to 2,700 in the last month, just in new land, the opportunities that he's had. I see the opportunities for me, which is a total blessing, is these grandkids coming up. Mm-hmm. The opportunity to be able to train those, like you're talking about with Bo, with all I've got 5 grandchildren. Now 4 of them are boys. Mm-hmm. To be able to be in their life and watching them, if they choose, even if they don't choose to farm, whatever they're going to do. But the opportunity for the farm is there with making it even more family oriented than it is now.
Yeah, that's good. There's opportunity for expansion. There's opportunity to continue keeping the family business and all that. What's the opportunity going on up at Zelinko Acres?
So it's kind of opposite. Our opportunity, the way we're looking at it, is actually cutting back acres, but getting better on the acres that we have left. So we had one hired full-time employee for 4,500 acres that left about a year ago right now. So really, we have a couple seasonal guys for truck drivers and tillage, but one-man show running all of it. And he kind of did the math and says he needs 1,000 acres to pay for an employee. But if he can cut back 1,000 acres, that's that marginal ground, the sandy areas that, don't yield very well, or we don't have the yield potential, or we're driving too far, that it's just taking too much time out of it. He can cut back those 1,000 acres and get better on those remaining acres, and then still continue to do it by himself and not have to get that employee involved.
A lot of times you can make more money with less acres.
Yep. As I said, get better on those, instead of being happy with the county averages of 175, 180 per more, maybe I can push 200 if I have more time to focus on fewer acres.
Yeah. Well, and it also might be less stressful. I mean, not having to manage somebody. I as we were talking about, I don't do well with managing employees.
Yeah, and he doesn't either, and he knows that. Mm-hmm. And he doesn't want to manage people.
You're good at managing employees.
That's one of my strengths.
Yeah, it's one of my weaknesses.
I get really beside myself sometimes at the amount of people that want to work for us. And I know it's not just me; it's the team and the family approach. But one thing I've never struggled with is employees. Yeah. Good, solid employees a lot of it's the area. I mean, I'm not competing against the factories and stuff that are paying high dollar. But if you're going to live in McGee, the cool thing is we're a pretty cool place to work. That's not all me, but it's a strength of our
business. What's your opportunities, Kevin?
Opportunities. It's funny you ask that. So Danielle was talking the other day about different things and, how somebody got their start, what opportunity they had. And I said, I was really blessed. I said, I was blessed with the opportunity to work and make as much as I wanted to do, as hard as I wanted to work. Mm-hmm. I never was told I had to go play ball or had to go to swim lessons or go do whatever. It was like, let's go to work. You're going to work. And I looked at it as a job, but then I learned later in life it was opportunity. I learned how to weld. I learned how to do body work. I learned how to do fabrication. I learned how to do mechanic work. I learned whatever needed to be done, electrician work. And then what really got me as I got older was realizing that it was okay to pay somebody to do something that you knew how to do. Yeah. I mean, who hires an electrician? Who hires a farmer? We grew up.
You assumed that you do it yourself.
And we assumed everybody else done it. But then we found out that ain't the case when you start dealing with young people that don't even know how to use a shovel, and you're like, okay, really? but we still that. But the opportunities right now is my biggest opportunity is the fact that I'm in an area, it's a hindrance, but our real estate values has gotten stupid, mm-hmm. and they're not tied to agriculture in any way whatsoever. Mm-hmm. There's just less and less land to put concrete on, and that is creating, a burden. But the fact, as far as we're going to lose the land, but we own a lot of land that we bought over the years, and that just increases our balance sheet.
Yeah.
so nicely that we're at a point where we can sell land and then go buy some of Matt's good land from him and then rent it to him.
Well,
But,
what you've got is it's opportunity and threat. The threat
exactly. But we got to recognize it.
Chad Henderson and
you turn it into a positive.
Yeah.
Chad Henderson and you and Johnny are the three guys, which are all in the Sun Belt, I guess they would call it, whatever, southern states, that are in rapidly expanding residential areas, urbanizing areas. It's a threat. You're going to lose that farm ground. Well, it's also an opportunity because your ground is worth $40,000 an acre, which it really isn't for cropland, but it might be for a condo complex or something like that. And then also Chad points out, well, maybe, and he's not here, but he says, there's a threat, but there's also an opportunity. As urban encroachment happens, some farms do pick up and leave or just go out of business. And if that ground is still needing to be farmed, he's there. And you're one of the last remaining.
Yeah. And we're really blessed. We've got a lot of river bottom that, it'll be some of the last land to get developed. And when I say developed, it'll probably go parks and recreation or something of that nature, greenways and things. But, it's highly productive ground. It does well, and we really like it. But so we feel like with the kids coming in, they've got a lot more ground. Yeah. They got a long future there, but we're going to have to do, as Stephanie was talking about, we're going to have to look at managing fewer acres, do a better job, and be more profitable.
Honestly, to an opportunity, it might also be, you might need to get into some niche thing. You got people in your backyard, population, and you're not going to be able to farm 10,000 acres there because it's just not your kids might end up farming some kind of specialty crop thing.
Well, actually, one thing we had this year happen, with the drought was our irrigated corn became a want. Mm-hmm. They wanted it segregated. Mm-hmm. And now that we've had so many distilleries coming on, they're just springing up everywhere. And that's, some of these are using a couple 100,000 bushels of corn a year, but they want a good quality corn, and they want it from your farm so where they can track it to the
consumer. They want to be able to tell the story, local words from the story.
And the irrigated ground, which is not common in our area, is giving us an opportunity to capitalize on another area. And so we're a very high basis on our grain now because we've got boatloads of chickens. We got a lot of people to feed.
And there's not a lot of cropland.
There's not a lot of cropland.
All right, you ready for threats?
I'm ready.
Because I think we got his opportunity and his threats. And we figured that's pretty much. So what's your threat?
What's going to happen in 50 years? We have nobody to take over the farm. So our biggest threat is what's the farm going to turn into once Ryan decides he's done?
50?
Sure. He said he's going to work till he's 100. So,
well, you can say that all you want. And I'm going to play small forward for the Pacers. I can say that all I want, but guess what? It ain't going to happen. So
it's going to be quicker than you think.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be 50. So
she's actually 30.
Yeah. All right. So anyway, this is not something that, again, we got people watching the show, again, figuratively joining us at the table at the Granary. They're like, oh, damn. I got some of those legacy issues, or I got some of those transition issues myself, or I've got one kid that's completely removed from this and lives in, wherever. And that's not, there's several people that are thinking what you just said.
Yeah. And we have 3 kids. The oldest wants to be a veterinarian and farm, but we know in reality he's not going to be a 4,000 acre farmer with a full-time vet job.
You don't know. He might have autonomous equipment and
monitor it from the farm, the dairy farm. Our daughter, not really interested in agriculture. She likes the cattle side, but doesn't want to come back and farm. Really no desire there. The youngest, he's in 8th grade. He says he wants to farm, but in reality, he wants to be a seed salesman so he can fly a drone. So that just shows where his mentality is at
I would just like to point out here, Stephanie, even your youngest kid is 14, 50 years from now puts him at 64. Yeah. I sure as hell don't want to be taking on a new endeavor when I'm 64 as a business enterprise. So I don't know if I can, maybe you made the runway too long for these kids. Maybe they'd all be interested if you'd been more realistic on your timing.
But in reality, they were not going to farm. They won't be wanting to farm. If they want to farm part-time, and get Ryan through, his 80s, but they're not going to want to farm full-time. In 50 years, there'll be, nobody left in our family willing to farm.
You got time, clearly. We got a lot of time to figure that out.
And the kids will fool you. I mean, I can show you, right where Chad and I was standing when my son said he didn't want to farm no more, and he quit. And then, a year and a few months later, he comes downstairs and, at the house, and he's like, could I come back to the farm? And I was like, well, I don't know. If it's going to be like it was when you was there before, no. Mm-hmm. He says, what do you mean? I said, if you're working a public job and all I hear is customers bragging about how good a job you're doing. I said, as your parent, I'd rather hear that than to be chewing on you for not doing your job and laying out of work. He says, no, I know I messed up then, said, I can do better. So we give him a chance.
He came back better?
And it's amazing. I mean, he picked 2,000 acres of corn this year, and to the point he didn't want me to come to the field. And so it's really amazing how the kids changed. So Ryan may not get, but maybe 20 more years.
Hey, I think I get booted out.
Ryan maybe 20 years, but you need people following.
I was going to say, Kevin, I'm wondering now, you think a kid changes from 8th grade till age 64? Because that's the timeline she put out there. Did you change from 8th grade to age? You're not even 64 yet. What's the threat to your farming operation?
I was asked this 10 years ago, the same question. What did I think the biggest threat was to my farm? And my response was the suburban mom. And it's almost come to fact, because agriculture was 2%. Now it's 1.5, 1.2.
Not even worse.
People are so removed from the land anymore that they don't understand what we're doing. They think we're trying to harm them rather than help them. And I still think that's one of the biggest threats and we've done a better job as farmers at being transparent. My dad, he wouldn't want to bring a busload of city people out there to farm. He'd be like, I'm encouraging.
Yeah.
Come see what we're doing. You'll see that we're doing the right thing. So, there's several threats out there. There's threats from the markets and threats from the weather. But that's one that's lingering there that just keeps getting a little worse all the time. And we're combating it all the time, and if they'll just open their eyes and look at reason, we're doing so much better job environmentally than we ever have.
I think we're getting a little better credit now than what we did. I think COVID helped when they went in and the grocery store shelves was empty, and then they had to start researching.
Got a little more.
Why is the warehouse not bringing the food? Well, the warehouse has got to get the food from the farmers. The farmers have got to do it. Got
real fast. I guess.
Well, another thing is, the farmers were considered essential workers, and they said, "Wait a minute, the farmers are essential, like the law enforcement and the fire department and the EMS and the doctors, and then, it goes back to, I would want to say it was President Truman, don't quote me on it, but it stated, that the American farmer is a nation's greatest defense, the ability to feed its own people.
Yeah.
And,
sorry.
No, you're good.
No, the immediate threat, I think, for all of us right now is the profit margin. Mm-hmm. If we can't fix that, then we can't continue.
Yeah, well, viable, you've got to be viable, and then that's always the question about being viable. I'm glad, I was inspired by you to come with this topic, since you're the corporate person that has to do a SWOT analysis every year. And what company is that with? That's with AgroLiquid, the company that's sponsoring this episode of the Granary. We're very happy to have them here. We talked about strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. We got some very good answers here. Some of them that I completely predicted. Some of them I did not predict. So this is right on point, as you like to say. So anyway, you're always welcome here to pull up a chair and have a conversation with real farmers and agricultural people about stuff that's really happening in our industry. Talked about strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. We hope that you found something valuable that you can apply to your own operation, thinking through your own SWOT analysis. She's Stephane Zelinko, farmer in Michigan, with 50 more years to go, apparently, and a great agronomist with our friends at AgroLiquid. If you want to learn anything about their fertility products, go to
agroliquid.com.
And he's Kevin Matthews, and he's Matt Miles, and I am Damian Mason, coming at you from the Granary. Till next time, cheers.